Hello, everybody, and good morning to you guys. And thank you for tuning in for another daily episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. I am Tony Lynch. I am your host. And before I bring on my next guest, I would like to say if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor, head over to that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. And for the ones who've already subscribed, thank you for the support. It means so much more to me. It helps us get that content out there to many, many more people. And now, before I bring on my next guest, I want to say that this is for educational purposes only. And if at any moment that you guys have any questions or comments, please put them in the comment section. We'll be answering those as we go along. Now, without further ado, you guys help me bring on my amazing guest, Miss Linda
Henderson.
Henderson, yes. Well, Linda Henderson. Yes, I forgot. So how you doing today?
I'm doing just fine, thank you. And thank you for having me on your show. Thank you for taking your time. I'm honored.
And the honor goes both ways. Thank you for being on and coming on and sharing your story. I'm really looking forward to it. So but now, before we get into your story, tell people who you are, where you're from, and the work that you do. I know we talked about it. You said, I'm just now starting, but, do some important work by telling that story.
My name is Linda Henderson. I'm from Ontario, Canada, and the weather is finally making a nice turn for the better, and the sun is shining, and that makes me happy. I have written a book after losing my daughter, Andrea, called The Road of Love and Hope. And since I have written that book, I have been on a mission to reach out and help as many people as I can who are grieving or suffering from mental health adversities, because of course all of those things are involved with grief. And after 12 years, I think I probably have some inspiration in depression, fears, anxiety, all of those things. And so that's my mission, to reach out and be a source of inspiration to all who need it.
Yeah, that's I want to say first and foremost, thank you for doing the work that you do. And it takes a really good-hearted person to come and be a part of this grief world, right? To want to walk with people, help them find their avenues of healing. It takes a really good person to be able to do that. And I thank you for your heart for that, because we need a lot more people. We need a lot more Miss Lindas out here running around, right? We definitely do. So now, how can you take us on a journey of the story of your daughter?
Absolutely. My daughter was 27 years old. She was happily married, just starting out her life, like everybody's dream. You fall in love, you start your family, you get a home. They had just purchased their new home in August of 2011. And she had a 2-year-old little boy, my grandson, Tristan. And she was 3 months pregnant, expecting her second baby. And she was out working one day, December 20th. She was a social worker. She was helping the youth of our community, working with girls between the ages of 13 and 17. They had been through the foster care. It was kind of the end of the road for them. This was a group home. A lot of the girls had a reading level of grade 3, 4, different, not much education. Education had been interfered with because of their situations. And so Andrea was a social worker, and she taught their literacy program called New Directions, as well as helping these girls become good citizens in society, teaching them all the basic things required for that. So she was out, they were driving back to their place of employment, her and her co-worker. She was the passenger in the front seat of the car. They were stopped, waiting to turn left, when a transport truck driver hit them. his full speed while he was texting and driving, having an argument with his girlfriend. He pushed their vehicle into the oncoming traffic, which then they were hit by another vehicle, T-boned, and both the driver and Andrea were killed instantly. There were two of the girls in the back seat. They were injured for life, mentally and physically. They survived, but it's just not even understandable how they survived. But so they have a lifetime of problems. And that was the start of my journey. I was shopping at the shopping mall 10 minutes from her, and not even understanding, not even knowing that this was going on. We had been texting all morning. The accident happened about 12:30 around lunchtime. We'd been texting all morning, having the usual mother-daughter conversation. Fortunately, she was at a job where she could, talk. And I understood lots of times she'd say, "Can't talk, Mom," and then I wouldn't hear from her. But our messages were, ongoing all morning, and they just suddenly, abruptly ended. And I didn't hear from her anymore. And as the day progressed, the anxiety started to build. And, a mother just knows, like, what's up, what's wrong.
Mhm.
You try to, just calm yourself by saying, oh, she got busy, she forgot to text back. But inside, your child. So the day progressed. And what had happened is, when they purchased the house, she procrastinated and neglected to change all of her ID information. So they had a problem. The police had a problem contacting the family and the proper address. They had gone to her old address. So by 5 o'clock in the evening, I couldn't take it anymore. Her husband hadn't heard from her. And when I found out she did not pick up her son from her his paternal grandmother, she didn't pick up her little 2-year-old bundle of joy that she adored, I knew then something was terribly wrong. So I headed out on the highway. I was going to her place of employment. Not sure, I was just frantic. I'm not sure what I thought I was going to find, but I was on the highway, and as I was driving, I came up to the sign of her road, and it said road closed, where I had to exit. And I knew then everything, I knew in my heart, I think as the day progressed, I knew that something serious had gone wrong. Not that she had died, but, you always hang on to that hope. And then my phone rang. I pulled over, and it was my husband. And he said, "You need to come home. The police are here." I was a nurse for 37 years. So I knew that if she was at the hospital, and she was alive, I would have been going to the hospital. But they're telling me to come home. So I knew then she was gone. I drove home, and it was truly on the highway, one of those situations of Carrie Underwood, Jesus, take the wheel.
Mhm.
Because I have no idea how I arrived at my address. I have no recollection. I think the car just drove itself. I was just beyond frantic. I arrived at the house. It was dark. Lights were all on, police cruisers all over. I entered the house, came in. They didn't even tell me. They didn't have to say anything. And I just looked at the police officer and screamed at him and told him, "You are a liar. You are a liar. You don't have, it's not my daughter." And I pounded my fists on his chest and collapsed. And that was when my world crashed. So I have been spending the last 12 years dealing with that loss, my living without my child, dealing with depression, grief, everything that grief offers, depression, denial, anxiety. I couldn't drive for 3 years. For 3 years, I had the trial. It was on the radio all the time. It took 3 years before the trial completed for the trucker. At the same time, her husband decided that we didn't need to see my grandson. So we took him to court, and that was during the same time. And they both trials settled around the same time. It took 3 years. So I believe And since I've written my book, I've been on this self-discovery, and I didn't realize it then, but I know that I didn't grieve. I didn't grieve my daughter properly. There were tears, but I didn't know what the tears were for. There was just so much, I had complicated grief, so many other things going on. My other daughter was completely devastated, and grief tore us apart. She moved away. We didn't talk for 6 months. So all of those things happened, and I don't think I grieved until it was all over. He walked away a free man.
What?
I never looked to the justice system for healing, because at the end of the day, I don't have Andrea. But they had charged him with, in Canada, it's careless driving or dangerous driving causing bodily harm, death. So they charged him with the dangerous driving, which is criminal. And apparently there was some paperwork that the prosecution did not submit. So the judge could not find him guilty 100%. Criminally responsible for the accident. So he walked away a free man with no consequences, and I walked away imprisoned for life without my daughter.
First and foremost, thank you for sharing that, and I'm right there with you, that gives me no I already don't have confidence in our justice system, but that just really seals the deal right there for me again, right? You're like, oh,
Absolutely.
how can a person walk away like that, right? And have no justice?
Anyone I talk to, it, even 12 years later, nobody can figure that one out.
Yeah. And I mean, I grew up in an era where, we used to watch what the police did to us, right? And whenever we tried to say something, that's the reason why I don't have it, right? But you watch the person. Now, granted, it was an accident, and you shouldn't be texting and driving, but you're taking a life.
Mm-hmm.
You've taken an innocent life.
Mm-hmm.
Two of them, right? And
well, actually, my unborn grandchild.
Oh, so now there's 3, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I
lost a grandchild.
You've lost a lot in just in one sitting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because your world changes. Not only did you lose one of your daughters, you lose your granddaughter, she loses her co-worker, but then your life falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it comes down, we talk about grief now. I think we have a better understanding now of what grief is, right? But it's still constantly evolving. It's still constantly teaching us exactly what it is, right? I have a saying about grief. I said, life is my wife. Life is my wife, but grief is my mistress.
Oh, absolutely. It is part of you. It is
Right.
now who you are, a completely changed person, because
Exactly.
you live with grief every day.
Exactly.
And I am not the same person I was 12 years ago.
Mm-mm.
She's gone. She left with Andrea. She's gone. And like you say, 12 years later, and I'm still changing. I'm still learning. And grief is still teaching me. It's just unbelievable what grief can do.
Now, did you understand what your grief? Because you said you didn't properly grieve, so I'm just getting a better understanding. I know now we talk about it, but back then there was not a whole lot of stuff going on that people taught about grief and and all of these different things. And coming from a place where I can never totally relate to the loss of a child from a mother. I was a father.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we have 2 totally different perceptions, but also the pain of loss of a child is there.
The pain is the same. I believe the pain is the same. Mother, father, right?
Yeah, it's horrible. Yeah.
And like you say, aging 12 years ago. I mean, things have changed, right? And
Mhm.
when this happened to me, I had no, I can't say I didn't have knowledge of grief. I was a nurse for 37 years.
Okay.
I
Okay.
helped people, with their family members, holding, their family members' hands as they transitioned, as they passed over. And, I've experienced and seen a lot of death, but when it's your job, you know,
It's
it's
different.
it's entirely different. Your heart is there, your heart is in it, and you're empathetic. But you know that you go home at the end of the day to your family, to your life, right?
Right. Right.
And then my mother had passed away in 1997, and God love her, I loved her dearly. We were as close as a mother and daughter could possibly be.
Mhm.
And when she died, it really devastated me. Um, and I was a single mother at the time, and at different stage in my life, but it was a parent loss. I knew the pain of that. But when this happened with Andrea, none of that mattered. It was as though I knew nothing about grief, because
Right.
this was grief on a completely different level. And there were no Zoom support group meetings.
Yeah.
I had my lifelines were regular visits with the family doctor. In the beginning, it was like weekly to biweekly to monthly, and it was monthly for years. And the counselor, the same thing. I had the same counselor for 9 years, and I had a support group that I went to in person, but it stopped with COVID. And even with that, it was only about 6 people, but that didn't matter. I'm just comparing it now to, you go on a Zoom and there's like 20 people, but the support now is amazing
Oh man.
compared to then. And I had no knowledge of grief. I thought I was losing my mind.
Oof.
I told my husband one time, I said, I don't know what it feels like to be brain damaged, but I think there's something wrong with my brain. I feel like there's something, and of course we now know that, of course, there was something wrong with my brain. Your brain has to find a new path, all that
Right.
rewiring. And so that's why when I wrote the book, I thought I would write it from a broken-hearted mama's perspective, as if I was sitting here talking to another person one-on-one about what they're feeling.
Mm.
And you're not going crazy, and you will be depressed,
Yeah.
and like all of those specific things. I wish I had someone to sit down and talk to me about that when I was going through it.
I'm ready. You know, honestly, I'm right there with you, Linda. I wish I had someone to tell me that I wasn't going crazy, because I felt the same way, right? I felt as if everything that I was feeling, because I was always taught to suppress my emotions, like, man
Mhm.
up, all those different things, right? Hey, buck up, buckaroo, you know what I'm saying? Everything's gonna be all right. Don't cry, all of these different things. So I always thought to myself, like, all right, well, I'm not supposed to have emotions. I'm just supposed to just accept it for what it is, right?
Mhm.
But that child loss, man, that hits a little bit different. I'm like yourself. I have lost both of my parents, right? I lost my younger brother, and I will tell you that each and every last one of them were different. Everything that I felt with each and every last one was different, and I think that's associated with the relationship that we have with those individuals. But life changes. It definitely changes. Like, I remember, and tell me what you think about this. I remember um, when I lost my son, I felt as if someone played a cruel joke on me.
It can't be real.
Right,
It
right.
can't be real. That's why I called the police officer a liar. You are a liar. This is not my daughter. I didn't identify her. And I found out later it was, I don't know, it was the boss of the group home's husband
Hmm.
identified her, because nobody could get in touch with her husband or her family. But so I called him a liar. Yeah, total denial. This is not true. This is like, you guys, you are wrong. That's all I could say.
look, I'm right there with you. And here's the other side of it, right? I When my son passed away, I actually watched my son take his last breath. I walked in the room as he took his last breath. And I just remember the scene. I remember the scene very, very clearly what it looked like. And I
Mhm.
just remember there's a side of me that turned around and I was looking for the doctor, but the doctor had already ran out the room, right?
Mhm.
So now I'm looking around, they got police officers around, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm about to rip this place apart. Somebody need to come and tell me that uh, that this is not going
Anger,
on.
anger,
Right,
anger.
right, the anger, right?
Mhm.
But I had already been dealing with anger issues long before my son had came, and I was just like, when I had him, he was my brother, like you said, that bond between father and son. What I'm saying, mother and daughter. I wish that other people would have that with their children. I do.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful thing, right? Talk to each other. He was only 8 too, and and I just remember I said I calmed down, and I remember the nurse comes in there and she says, "Would you like me to clean them up?" I said, "Yes, please."
Mhm.
And she cleaned them up and came and got me. I said, "I'm gonna go lay in bed with him for just in case when he wakes up." She didn't say anything. Yeah. Oh, I went and laid in bed for 2 hours
Oh,
next to him, and I put the blanket over top of him. I wrapped him in my arms and everything, and I was just sitting there. I was like, "Come on, you're gonna have to wake up, man. We got to go home soon, right?" And every time that I would breathe, I would see him move, and I would think to myself, "Oh, oh, oh, he's getting up."
in your brain, of
In my
course.
brain, in
Yeah.
my brain,
Mhm.
because I didn't want to believe it, just like most of us, right? Didn't want to believe it.
Denial. Huge,
Um,
huge denial.
yeah, way denial, very,
Mhm.
very deep denial. And then when I dozed off for probably about 30 minutes, and I could hear his mother out in the lobby area, and she walks into the room. And she goes, "You should get up. There's nothing else there." She was my narcissist. This is his own mother saying this. I look,
Wow.
yeah, oh yeah, this is his mother saying this. Like you should get up. There's nothing else there. I looked over at him, and I kissed him on his forehead, and I noticed that his lips had turned blue,
Mhm.
and he started to get real stiff, and I got up and I put the blanket, I tapped him up, wrapped him up a little bit more, and I walked out, and I remember the bereavement. Um, the lady in charge of bereavement walked out,
Mhm.
and she went to go grab my hand, and I just remember taking my hand. I said, "Do not touch me. Do not touch me." This woman looked at me like, "Whoa, whoa! I'm just trying to be. I know what you're trying to do, but do not touch me, right?" You know what I'm saying? Like she don't know me like that. I'll knock you out right now.
And at that point, the anger was just
Yeah, and I'm free. I'm saying the same. I'm preaching to the choir. We both know the denial, the anger, all of these things. I had no idea about. I
mhm.
had no idea, right? And like yourself, I thought I was going crazy. I was like, "Oh no, somebody better give me a call and tell me when I can go pick him up," right? And for 2 years, I was like that. But for 2 years, I never knew what I was doing.
Yes. Yes. I felt like I was a robot.
Yeah,
I just existed. I knew my heart was beating, um, but that's all. I just existed. For the first, I don't know, my husband, I think he took 5 weeks off work. And I remember him, he just looked after me. I was completely medicated all the time. He said to me, it's time to eat. You need to eat breakfast. It's time. He told me when it was time to eat. He told me, so you need to shower. You haven't showered for a few days. When did you last shower? I don't know. Like you don't care about your physical body because you're so immersed in
mm,
the emotional pain that takes
yes,
over everything. I felt like I was existing outside of my body.
Yes.
totally disconnected from the world. And, it was like time to brush your teeth, time to do this, just like a robot. You have to do these things. And then I would return to bed. And that went on for months. And then eventually, the little flickers of life enter in. But you're just, I said, for I think the first 2 years, I was just existing. If I have to continue like this, I don't want to live. I told him, I said, I don't want to live. I don't want to live without Andrea. And if I have I didn't have very, very much understanding of suicide, but I have a clear understanding, I believe now, because I was at one point where, I was deeply considering it, and I didn't want to leave this world. I did not want to die. I loved my husband. I loved my family. I loved life, but I could not take this pain one more hour. I did not want to take this pain. You get so tired of dealing with it, and you don't know what to do or how to deal with it. And I just was at that fork in the road and decided to take life.
Yeah.
And here I
See,
am.
I'm glad that you did. I don't want to go back to two things that you said: the rewiring of the mind, right? Because I found out later on, after I developed my relationship with grief, that the mind was trying to save me from the pain. So it kept trying to block out the traumatic things that were going on. And I think that's where the grief brain was the strongest. And I had a routine, right? I had a routine. And that's just the way that the routine was. I followed that routine for 2 years, but couldn't tell you what I did. Couldn't tell you not a conversation. I know that I got up and I went to work. Well, actually, I got up, had breakfast, worked out, went to work, came home, ate, worked out again. Sometimes I took a shower. Sometimes I didn't. Watch a movie. Couldn't tell you which movie I watched. And then
Sounds like you continued your life, but in a robotic way.
Right. Same thing how you were saying.
This, yep.
Yeah, same thing how you were saying. And I say that because I want people to understand that these things are totally normal. I didn't think that it was normal. I actually thought I was doing okay. Right. But every day. Hello. I'm waiting for someone to call me to tell me to come pick up my son from school. Right.
Wow.
Because my bubble was always with me. I picked him up. I took him to school. I picked him up from school. Right. I took him to dance practice. I took him to rock climbing. I did all of these things. These were our daily lives. Right. And it got so bad, Linda. I went to every weekend we used to go to Applebee's. We had a weekend routine. We go to Saturday mornings. We go to the play date, go to his play dates and everything, go see his friends. And then afterwards, we would go back to the house, have some breakfast, right? Brunch at that time. And then from there, we sit back, he'd go outside to play with his friends. And then he would come back in. And then for dinner, we would go to Applebee's. And then from Applebee's to a movie. Right. That was our weekend routine. That was our Friday, our Saturday day, Saturday. And then when Sunday would come around, we'd get up in the morning, and he would call himself cooking breakfast. So, I didn't have to cook breakfast. He was like, "Daddy, we're going to church." Right. So I was like, "Well, I haven't taken a shower." He goes, "Well, I'm going to cook. You go jump in the shower. And when you get out, you can eat. And then I can go jump in the shower and I can get dressed." And he'll have all his clothes and stuff laid out. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like he always thought he was smart. He always thought he was smart.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You're bullying me. Right. And then, so he would do that. And then we go to church. He loved going to the children's area. Right. And so love that. He'd go do that. And then we leave church, we go home. He'd go outside and play, etc. Right. That was our weekend, every weekend. And I remember following that same routine. I would still go to his friend's house. Right. You know what I'm saying? Because I knew his friend's parents and everything. As a matter of fact, it's funny. I knew his friends' parents before I knew that them two were friends. They were, yeah. And I would hear the stories, right? But I never put two and two together.
Mm-hmm.
My little buddy Gio, he was like, "Oh yeah, me and my best friend Jake, and this, that, and another." I'm thinking to myself, like, that's my son's name, right? You know. And then
Mm-hmm.
when I bring them both together, his mom looks at me and goes, "That's your son?" I go, "Yeah." And she goes, "Them two always in trouble." I was like, "Oh my God, here we go." Right? And that's what I found out, right? And so I used to always go over there afterwards, and I tell you, I couldn't. I remember Geo used to come and sit on my lap, and he used to just put his head on my shoulder and just cry. My best
Yeah.
friend's gone. My best friend's gone.
Oh.
And then I would leave, and I would continue my routine. But I will tell you that brain fog, ooh wee, that was
Forgetfulness.
that
Oh, forgetfulness.
always forgetting stuff, right?
Yeah.
Shoot,
That's,
man.
the brain is just, I guess, so it's so damaged,
Yeah,
right? It's damaged from the grief, and takes a long time for all that reprocessing and remapping, getting used to not having your child here physically. And I read about that, so now I know it's a real thing, but at the time I didn't think it was.
right.
I just thought, plain and simple, I'm going crazy. But you're
It,
not. It's
it
normal.
feels like it though, right? It feels like because
It's a
look,
complete normal part of grief, along
now
with
we
everything.
understand that now, but man, I tell you what, I didn't think that there was anything normal about the depth of pain that came along with that, right?
No,
Because
no.
I was trying to explain it to someone. It was like, man, I was like, man, if I could explain this pain to you, it's not a physical pain, but it's a deep embedded pain that won't go anywhere. And it's consistent.
And it takes over your physical body.
Right.
I remember that one day I was at the fork in the road, and I don't talk about this very often, but I just feel compelled, I guess, to talk about it and get it out of my system now, because there's probably lots of people who are at that fork in the road because you can't handle the pain anymore. But I just, I kind of disappeared one afternoon. My husband didn't know where I was. And I got someone to buy me a bottle of wine. And I went down to the bottom of our street. There's train tracks there, and it's all bushes. And, people used to walk their dogs. You're not allowed to go there anymore now. But I went down there, and I was just deep in my sorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting beside a big, huge rock. And I had this bottle of wine. And when it was finished, I'm like, this bottle's empty. It's glass. I didn't feel any better. Not the right way. Wouldn't recommend it. But it is what it is. And I looked at that bottle and the rock. I thought I could smash this bottle right now, and I could use the glass, and I could cut myself, and it would be over.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess God, Andrea, whatever little part of life that was still left in me. But the biggest thing that I thought about was Tristan, her little 2-year-old boy. I thought,
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that to him. Yes, I have other grandchildren, but I was, in the world of Andrea at that time. And so I prayed, yelled, screamed at God, prayed, and got out of it and wandered home. So that was my experience. And I realized then that it's just that I wanted the pain to stop, and I could not live like that anymore. And thank God, I did a lot of soul searching and praying and had a lot of support, and it was not a successful thing, but it was a thought. Just because the pain is so deep and so raw, and you just don't know what to do with it. Right. And there's a lot of people like that. And all I can say is, you need to have faith in something, some I believe in God, someone else, have faith in some upper power, faith to believe that you can do this and you can get through it and it will get better.
Yeah, it takes a while though. It takes a while to. I never, when I work with men, I always tell them like, look, you may not believe it now, but it does get a little better over time. But you got to take the time. You got to heal.
I always say time is my best friend.
Yeah,
Really.
yeah. Don't rush it. Don't rush your process.
Time is a teacher, right?
Yeah.
Time teaches us how we deal with it over and over and over again, that we become experienced grievers. And time teaches us how to deal with that situation a little bit better each time it happens.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. That I wish someone would have warned me about the pain though. I wish I would have had somebody tell me that this is what grief is, that this is what grief is, right? Because it's a difference when you can surround it. Because I didn't know that there was other people that had experienced it. Now here's the crazy part, right? My neighbor at the time when I first moved in had lost their oldest son, and then they ended up losing their youngest son about a month after I lost my son.
Oh my.
And I'm next door to him, right? And I'm watching them. And here's the realest thing that I was ever told. The husband said, this is really gonna mess you up. This is gonna mess you up. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm not gonna tell you everything's gonna be okay.
Well, at least you had someone to tell you that. Of course, you didn't believe it.
No, because I think, I'm watching them, right? I'm watching them. I'm going, well, they seem to be doing pretty good. Ooh, was I wrong?
Yeah.
I realize now what they were doing. Because I went through something similar.
Right. It's a very lonely road, but I think it's so important with walking on that road to get the support that you need, whatever support that is, if it's a friend, someone to talk to, or a support group in person, or Zoom meetings, or, people, like-minded people, someone that has suffered that same thing as you, it's helpful. Right.
And yes, I totally agree, right? But now here's the kicker part about it. Like, after I went through that dark moment, right? And I was just like yourself, like mine wasn't even a thought anymore. I had planned out my suicide. I'm done. I don't want to do it no more. Because I think at that time, the reality of my world had just opened up. And I started thinking, I said, you know what? I've already lost majority of my friends. A lot of it. Both of my parents are gone. My younger brother is gone. My son is gone. The reality of my life at this moment, you're the last of your bloodline, Tony. Now, I have a younger sister, but I did not think about that part right there because she lives in Virginia. She has 4 daughters, right? Some beautiful nieces. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, why would it really matter if I took my life, right? I'm not affecting their lives. But I can't go on. I know now that my bloodline stops with me. I can't have any more kids because I had the bright idea when my son was born. It was like, he's going to be the last one. I'm getting snipped, right? Yeah. Now I'm like, well, no more kids for you, Tony. So and I joke about it, right, and everything. But the reality of it is that during that act, because of what I had told myself about my son, I became the last of my bloodline. There's no one else to take on my bloodline when I'm gone.
No.
And so I thought to myself, I'm not doing anything. I don't even know why I'm here. And I didn't know what my tribe looked like because now I have multiple things. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I don't want to be here anymore. Close. So I understand the mental, like I want to talk a little bit about that as well. The mental health challenges that came along with that, with dealing with the grief, with dealing with that pain, the depression, the anxiety, the suicidal ideation that came
Mhm.
along with that. Not just in that moment, but shortly, even after that, I had to catch myself
Mhm.
thinking
Mhm.
to myself how easy it would be for me to take my life right now.
Yeah.
Right? I kept slipping back into that little how easy it would be. Who cares? Who would care? I'm just another black man out here on the streets. No one cares about me.
Mhm.
Right? That was my thought, Linda.
I think my faith in God was corrupted
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
completely, smashed. But deep in my heart, because I was born, raised Christian, whether I was angry at God or not, I still believed this has happened, but you can still help me. And
Mhm.
so I think that faith, praying every day, God help me. Sometimes, there are no words and you can't,
Mhm.
there's no words to describe what you're trying to pray. And it's just, God help me. And I believe that I'm here because of my faith and because there is a purpose and I now have a new purpose.
And I like that, right? Because I think before all of that, before everything, my life changed, and everything, like I had changed my life so much, to be a good man, but I didn't know what a good man looked like. And I wanted to change for my son because I wanted to be a good father. But I didn't
Mhm.
know I didn't know what a father looks like, right? You know what I'm saying? Because when you don't have examples, you kind of just make it up as you go, and
And
that's what I did. But
there's no book. You have to just
there's no book, right?
Mhm.
But the one thing that I did, um, is that I did turn to God, and I said, you know what? I don't know what a man is,
Mhm.
but I can use you as an example. So I'm going to need you to teach me and guide me so I can be a good man for that
Exactly.
little guy right there. And I
Exactly.
told my son that day when he was about 3 years old, I said, look here, Bubba, I don't know how to be a daddy. I don't. And I'm going to make some mistakes,
Mhm.
but I'm going to need you to tell me what you need from me so I can be better at being a good father to you. And
Mhm.
my son taught me how to be a good father. And I mimicked my wife behind the love that God had for me. So I learned how to forgive. I learned how to walk. I learned how to talk. I learned how to stand with my shoulders up. I learned how to, and I just learned how to carry myself a lot better, and it showed. So I started going to men's groups and things like that, right? Um, just so I can learn, just
Yeah.
so I can learn. But when all that went away, I will tell you this: my faith and everything. I told God, I said, I don't ever want to talk to you again. And he kept telling me, don't turn your head on me. I got something for you. I said, I want to talk to you.
Mhm.
Why would you hurt me this way? And I remember, I remember sitting there one day, and I ran across another man, another guy like myself. I remember watching his faith, and something said, one, two, his belief system till you can develop your own. I'm
Mhm.
not asking you to come back to me right away,
Mhm.
but I need you to grab on to that. There's something to this. So that's when I developed that philosophy. If you
Mhm.
don't have enough faith, or maybe your faith is being tested right now, maybe it's on a holding on by a couple of strings. If you see the next person and they're doing something good and you like the way that that looks, you don't have to hold on to that whole belief system. Grab on to the things that's making them strong, that you
Absolutely.
can get
Absolutely.
stronger, right? Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's where I
Mhm.
came from. I was like, there's something to this, right? And
Yeah.
now look at us.
That's true. I like that. That's good.
Now, when you struggled in your mental health, right? The
Oh, I
depression and
still
all of
do.
that
I
stuff.
still
Yeah.
do. I struggle with depression. Um, I was on antidepressants for 9 years,
Mhm.
and I guess I reached a point where I decided myself that it was time to wean off of them. It was just one, and I weaned myself off and talked to the doctor about it, and she knew, and she said, "Well, you can always, gradually go back on it." And I'm okay. I don't take medicine in that regard now, but I still struggle with depression. There are days when I have to push myself to get out that front door to do what I have to do in life. Especially in September, the fall season, from the time the weather changes, that cool winter air in Canada comes, and the first leaf falls off the tree. And I know that it's September, and it's kind of, here we are coming up close to December 20th, right? And so I managed to get through September pretty good because here the weather's nice in September. October, and then I struggle deeply in the fall and in the winter. And I have many depressive days where I have to stay in bed, and I just, have to motivate myself, find a reason to get up out of bed. I have to have an agenda. Even if I have to make a phone call that day to whatever, our everyday things we have to do. Even if I have a couple of phone calls that I know I have to do, it gives me motivation that you have to get out of bed and you have to make those phone calls.
Right.
And then I try to force myself to, even if I can't go out and walk, I open the door and I feel the fresh air. And I still struggle deeply with depression. Insomnia, I don't sleep. I have to take pills to sleep. I'm afraid of dreaming. Anxiety, oh, anger. Anger is a huge one, huge for me.
Yeah.
It's a little flicker. I call it a little flicker of little fire that's in me that just kind of stays there, and it doesn't take much of a trigger to ignite it. And I'm angry at the world. I don't have patience. I go to Walmart and I don't have patience for people. So I'm totally changed. I'm not
Yes, I
I'm
understood.
not really a nice person. I think I was nicer. The Linda before was nicer, but I can't help it. I do the best I can.
And that's all we can do, right? Because our mentality, everything changes. That's what people don't understand. Like,
Oh,
I don't
huge
get
change.
angry anymore. Um, I've learned to sit with it nowadays. I've learned to welcome the pain, and what I'm saying. I've learned, as I like to call it, I've learned to sit within my hurricane of grief.
Mhm.
I just plop right down there in the middle, and I go, and I look at it because everything that's associated with it, I can see the lumps sitting there. I've already cleared out a lot of the stuff, right? You know what I'm saying, in my healing journey. And I look around, and I go, oh, there's a piece. Let me grab that and bring that on down, not
Yeah.
empty it out. And I'm like, okay, well, let's dissect this. So I'm constantly diving into those different layers, and even as I still go, right, and learn. Because then I said, I told myself, I said, the grief is not going to go anywhere. But what I can do is that I can become a student of this thing.
Mhm.
I can allow it to change me.
Allow it to teach you.
Right. Allow it to teach me, right? Teach me the things that I don't know, especially as being a man.
Hmm.
I was like, oh, there's something more to it. And I began to have this relationship with it. And it became very intimate. That's why I developed that philosophy. I was like, life is my lover, but grief is my mistress.
Mistress.
Because when my lover is not around, my mistress shows up, say, "Hey, you want a little time with me today?" So I was like, look, life is going to show back up. No, not right now, Tony. I'm here. I'm like, oh, come on here, come give us some hugs. So, and that's just a great way, a great fun way that I've developed of how to look at it. And to be able to maneuver through life. Do I have my moments? I think, like you said, Linda, we're always going to have those moments. You're
Oh,
going
for sure.
12. I'm going on 9 on Father's Day. I was like, isn't that funny?
Mm-hmm.
Father's Day, I got 2 things. I got Father's Day and I got the anniversary of my son.
Oh
On the
my.
same daggone day. I was like, you know what? Whatever. Who did this? I don't know, but we got to talk about it, right? We're going to have to talk about it. But now, when did you decide to write your book? When did you become to a place where you say, you know what, I need to write this?
I used walking as a huge tool for me in my grieving. I had it. I think, it started with, I have to get out of the house. I have to go, I have to be somewhere. I have to be alone. I have to yell and scream. And then it evolved into me, I'm going for a walk. And so I would walk and still do, 4 or 5 times a week, 45 minutes a day. And I think of my physical health more now, but I still take that time to, talk to God, yell at God, be angry at God, talk to Andrea, tell her how much I love her, cry, scream, let those tears flow as I'm walking. And guaranteed, by the time I come home, everything is released and it's therapeutic because I feel better. But on one of those days when I was out walking, I came home and I told my husband, that's it, I'm going to write a book. He said, oh, okay, well, that's great. I said, but I have a problem. I was a nurse, as I said, for 37 years, and I'm going to age myself and say that all of our documentation and notes and everything that we did for patients was all handwritten. Nothing was electronic on computers. Maybe near the end, they were trying to introduce computers. But so my knowledge of a computer, to sit in front of a computer and write, was nil. So I said to him, how do I get started? So he says, well, this is what you do. You open up, Word, and you get your blank page and you start typing. I said, well, that's pretty easy. So then he'd come home and say, so did you save it? Save it? What? I'm like, what are you talking about? How do I save it? You just told me to write. That's all I had to do, right? Anyway, I progressed and learned a lot of stuff along the way with my mentor, my rock, my husband, and wrote my book. And I decided, like I said, in that first year, I couldn't get my hands on enough books. I believed in heaven, but I wanted to read, and I couldn't read a lot because your brain can't absorb a lot of reading. Right. But I wanted to read a lot about near-death experiences. I wanted confirmation that heaven is real, right? And so when I did read one book, and I thought, well, you were a nurse for 37 years. This one should be good. It's written by some psychoneurosurgeon. And I thought, if there's medical jargon in there, I'll be able to handle it, no problem, right? And I started reading and thinking, this is not for me. Like, I don't understand what he's saying. This is not what I need. It's not what I'm looking for. So I decided when I wrote the book that, as I said, I'm going to write it as though I'm talking to a person who's sitting down, crying in front of me, doesn't know what to do with their life. And these are my words. And that's how I wrote the book.
Love that, man. I love that. Such a huge inspiration. Now, do you have a copy of your book that you can show everybody?
Yeah, I do. It's The Road of Love and Hope.
Oh, I love that. I'm gonna have to give me a copy of that. Where can people find your book?
Pardon?
Where can people find your book?
On Amazon, and my website is lindahenderson, WRITE.com, and there's Amazon links throughout the website, so it's available on Amazon. Okay. The Road of Love and Hope. Yeah, I decided I was going to write it.
I love that. I love the cover of that book, and for the simple fact of listening to your story, I'm like, I have to read it. I have to read it. I have books from all kinds of people, and I said I love reading. I love reading about people's journey because it helps me better understand, the different pathways that we have taken through healing. And then on top of there, when you guys make it big, I want to be like,
well, I highly doubt that's going to happen, but
Well, you never know, right? You
I've
never
based
know.
feedback I've had from it so far, it seems to be, and my goal when I sat down, I said, you know what, if I can put my pain into words and create a book and it helps one person or
Mhm.
one family, then I will have attained my goal. I will have been successful. And I believe that I've reached that one person, maybe more,
Oh,
right?
trust me,
And,
right now, I would tell you your story has reached a lot of people.
yeah.
I'm just sitting back and I'm just watching. I got several screens that I watch on, and I would just tell you, you reached a lot of people today with that story, including myself. You've given me another layer of hope, right?
Mhm.
And strength. I can't begin to thank you for that, right? Because just your journey, the 12 years, and you let me know right then and there, like, I'm going on 9 years, you're going on 12, that we still going to have these things that are coming.
Actually, it
So,
was 12 years in December. It's going to be 13 December 20th.
yeah.
But, I spoke with someone the other day, and actually, it was when I did a book signing, and this woman I was talking to, she said her friend that she's known since she was 6 years old lost her son, and
Mm.
I asked her how many years, and she said it's been 30 years. But she said to me, not even a woman who has experienced the loss but experienced the pain through her friend, she said to me, she said, but 30, the number doesn't mean anything.
Don't mean nothing.
I said, absolutely. The number means nothing, because that deep vacant hole in my heart will always be there until I draw my last breath. And
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how many years, right? I mean, it's painful as those years come around, as we walk through them, as a parent without our child. But the everyday, the pain, we have it every day. It's
Hmm.
never going to go away.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
That's why the road of love and hope, I wanted the cover to be a road. I wanted the cover to be a road that I'm walking. It's rocky, it's undefined. There's no destination. There's nothing at the end of it, and just rocks around, because it's an unwanted, untraveled road. But at the end of
Mhm.
the road, there are clouds, and behind the clouds, the rays of sun shine. So the sun will always shine. We know that.
Yeah, well, that's man. Oh my God, man, you blew my mind right there, because normally I close it out and go, could you give the audience something? And that right there, you just gave me something. I was like, all righty then, right? But Linda, I know you probably got a busy day today as well, and I want to say thank you for coming on, sharing your story. I would love to do this again. I would love to talk more with you,
Mhm.
and dive more into mental health and all of those different things. If ever you want to be back on the show, please let me know. Right? I'm pretty
Absolutely.
sure the
Thank you for
audience
having
will.
me.
Yeah, most definitely. Just let me know. Right, the audience would love that. Right, I think they would love to hear more about you. I mean, I don't think there's a dry eye. I really
Well,
don't.
my goal is to reach out, as I said earlier, to as many people as I can in whatever avenue that gives me, to give inspiration, hope, and empowerment that no matter what the situation is, you can do this. If
Most
you say
definitely.
yes to life and let a little bit of life in, increments at a time, you can do this.
Yes. And we're going to conclude this episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. Everybody, thank you for guys for tuning in. We will be back for another daily one tomorrow, so you guys stay tuned for that. And be sure to go and check out Linda Henderson's page and get her book, please. You know what I'm saying? Let's go and support her, and let her know that you guys are paying attention out here. Now, with that being said, this is going to conclude this episode. If it's your first time tuning in, do me a favor, head over to that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time we drop a new episode. But most importantly, if you know anyone who could benefit from these conversations that we have, please share this with them. This helps us get the content out there to more and more people, and give people more hope out there, right? So until next time, you guys enjoy your day. Hopefully you guys are out there making good memories and smiling with the people that you love. Linda, thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Tony. Have a great day.
You as well. Thank you.